Hello everyone, I'm Colleen and today I'm going to be doing my July wrap-up, and I'm so sorry if this is uploaded late. I already filmed it but I didn't like how it turned out and I forgot to mention the book, so let's get started with the wrap-up. For the month of July I read 6 books and 2 novellas, so let's get started with the first book. The first book that I read in July was Lying Out Loud by Cody Keplinger, which is a companion book to The Duff, and I would like to thank Nat Galli and for the publisher for sending me a digital copy of this book in exchange for an honest review. The reason why I was so excited to read this book was because I heard that there was a huge cameo for Wesley and Bianca, and let me tell you, I was not disappointed with the cameo. I was excited and I was about to jump, but I was in bed and I was reading it late at night, and I actually got to finish this book in a day, which was a really good thing. When I first read this book, I thought that it would be in the perspective of Wesley's sisters Amy, and it turned out it's the perspective of her best friend, and I can't remember what her name is. But the story of this book is basically Amy's best friend is a really great liar. She can basically be a pro. And there is a guy that has a huge crush on Amy, but Amy does not like him. But one night, Amy's best friend accidentally chats with that guy, and that guy thought that he was talking to Amy, and then there's a huge crush going on, and so she is kind of entangled into this mess. So yes, I really enjoyed this book. I gave this a 3.5 out of 5 stars. It was fun to read, but I definitely loved The Duff more. Then for my June Catty-tastic TBR jar challenge, my challenge was to have someone else pick a book for you. I got 2 people that picked a book for me, and the first one was for my sister, and my sister wanted me to read Second Chance Summer by Morgan Matson, which I was so happy because I really wanted to read it that month, and it was a perfect read. It was a perfect contemporary, and when I went into this book I had no idea what was gonna happen. Like I thought I knew what was gonna happen, but I was completely wrong, and I think it's really best to go into this book without knowing anything or much, because that's what I went into, and I just thought it was good, and it hit me right in the heart, and it broke my heart, and it never stitched it back together. So yes, I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. Then Gabriella from Gabriella Pop told me to read Wonder by R.J. Palacio, which was actually a really good choice because I've gotten this book like during Christmas and I've been wanting to read it for a long time, and that was a perfect time. So thank you, Gabriella, for telling me to read this book. This is a middle grade book about a boy named August. He has a facial deformity, and so he isn't considered normal like the other kids. The cool thing about this book is that it's written in a multiple perspective, but they all kind of make the story, and in their perspective they all talk about their time with August and all their experiences with August, I guess you could say. And one of my favorite perspectives was from Bia, who is August's big sister. So that was a really fun perspective, and there are more, but I usually don't like multiple perspectives, but this one just did it right. So yes, and there was a really cute moment from August, and I felt like if I ever had a moment I could totally relate to it, and I was almost in tears from reading that moment. So that was a really great read, so yes. I thought I was gonna cry while reading this book, but I didn't, which I don't mind if I didn't, because I thought that this was a fun book to read, because August is such a positive boy. For a 10-year-old, he is very mature for his age, I think, and he can always make jokes about himself. He can make people comfortable. So I think that was a nice touch for August, and it just made this book really positive and inspiring. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read a novella for Wonder, and it's the Julian chapter, and it's like almost 200 pages long. And to be honest, the first time I read his perspective, I wasn't very into it. I just didn't like him. He was a bully, and I didn't really like it. But once we got into the part 2, I just started to kind of like how the story was going. So overall I gave this novella a 3 out of 5 stars. I read another novella for Wonder, and it's Pluto, a Wonder story. And this is in the perspective of August's best friend, Christopher, I believe? Yeah, Christopher. And I would also like to thank Nat Galli for sending me a digital copy of this book in exchange for an honest review. And when I first picked this book up, I immediately liked it. I liked his perspective with August because they were kids when they were like best friends. So that was a really fun thing to read about, and I think like it's not very necessary to read it at all. But if you want to read it, then definitely pick it up. I gave this novella a 3 out of 5 stars. Then I read Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. And also I'd like to thank Natalie for the publisher for sending me a digital copy of this book in exchange for an honest review. This book is about a boy named Simon who is not openly gay. But one day his emails to a boy named Blue has fallen into the wrong hands and he is blackmailed from the screenshots of their exchange of conversation. And so he has to help that blackmailer. There is kind of like a mystery in this book as to who is Blue, and I think that was a really fun touch, and I loved the emails exchange between them. I thought it was the most interesting thing to read. And also Simon has a really great family and friend dynamic, so that was really fun to read about, and it was just a really positive book, and it's also diverse. And it also talks about LGBTQ. So if you want to start reading books with that kind of topic, then I highly suggest you to read that book as a first one. So yes, overall I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard, and I would like to thank Maximum Pop for sending me a copy of this book in exchange for an honest review. And I will link Maximum Pop's Twitter down below and also their website. I've also done a video review for this book, so I will link it down below and also try and link it in this video. So you can go click on either one of them to watch my spoiler-free video. And it is split into 2 parts, so don't worry, I gave you enough warning to exit if you haven't read the book. I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars, and if you've been meaning to read it, then I think you should definitely give it a try. And last but not least, I read Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell. This book is a borrowed book from my friend, and she said that she didn't really like it, so it took me a while to pick this up. But once I picked it up, I am so glad that I did. I thought it was a perfect time to pick it up because I was in a contemporary mood, I guess you could say, because as you can tell from the books that I've read, they're mostly contemporaries. This book is set in the 1980s, and I'm not really too familiar with that era. But it was still a fun thing to read about. It is about 2 teenagers who have unexpectedly fallen in love, and you wouldn't think that they'd be together or anything like that. And also, if you could read what John Green said, he said, reminded me not just what it's like to be young and in love with a girl, but also what it's like to be young and in love with a book. And honestly, while I was reading this book, I could just think about my first crush and all the cute moments-ish. So this book made me kind of feel nostalgic towards my first crush. So yeah, that was a really fun read, and I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I have already picked my Catty-tastic TBR jar challenge, and my challenge was to reread a favorite book. And let me tell you, I'm not a huge fan of rereading books, even if it's my favorite, because I'm afraid I might not like it the first time I read it. But you know what, I'll just give it a shot. These were all the books that I read in June, and I'm so happy. I thought I read more, but overall I'm still happy with how much I read, and I can't wait to read more in August. I hope I can. So yes, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye! Then Gabriella from Gabriella Books told me to read Wonder, but I thought I was gonna cry when I read this book, but I didn't, which was fun because then I read another book in exchange for an honor.